The Stirling Range National Park in WA's southwest is well known for its beauty, with its dramatic peaks, ancient landscapes and rare flora. But it's also wild, remote and can be dangerous. Robyn Boulet discovered that firsthand during a 3-night hiking expedition with friends. After suffering a horrific injury, her group was told help couldn't reach them before nightfall due to the terrain and conditions. Robyn and the climbers sheltered in a cave for the night, while rescue crews prepared to move in at first light. Hi, I'm Mandy Walsh. Welcome to RAC's Horizons podcast. Robyn joins us today along with experienced hiker Patrick Carter, who was on the same trip. Well, thank you both for coming in today. Robyn, take us back to the start. Why did you go on this trip?
Patrick, my friend here, and his wife Anya, we've known each other for probably 28 years now. And Anya presented a challenge to me and she said, "Have you ever slept in a cave before?" And I went, "No, I haven't." She said, "Well, why don't you come on a hike that we're planning to do in the Stirling Ranges?" And I went, "Done." So after once we sort of kind of agreed on when we were going to do it, and it was initially supposed to happen in November, we started our training and there was another couple that had decided to join us. So, our training regime kicked in. We started, climbing stairs at work and, going on some, pretty long walks just around. I live in the hills, so I was doing lots of walking in the hills. And then Anya hurt her knee. So that meant that our November trip had to be cancelled.
Yep.
And so we then just tried to work out another time on when it was going to be suitable to do it. And I think you said, let's not do it in summer.
Yeah, that's right. Because summer is a write-off, basically. So the earliest I've ever been there, or the latest you could say, was probably around March. Yep. And that was the first time we did it. It was in March, many, many years ago. And the heat can really get you, and the amount of water you need as well.
So May, right on the cusp of winter, is a good time to go.
Yeah, yep. So sort of pretty good in around sort of April, May is pretty good. And then depending on your sort of pain threshold, if you want to be right there in June, July, when it gets really, really cold and windy and sort
sometimes
of rainy and
too.
snow. Well, I've been there for snow as well. So May was a sort of a reasonable time, I think, for us to go.
Robyn, had you been to the Stirling Ranges before? Had you bushwalked through there?
Never. And, that I'd heard Paddy and other friends, talk about how beautiful the Stirling Ranges were. And I'd also heard how challenging they were. So it wasn't the challenge that really, enticed me to want to go. It was really the beauty of the area. So I knew, our fitness, it was quite reasonable. We were pretty good.
We had to train twice, didn't
we?
Oh,
well, we
had
did.
to train at the start before your friend hurt her knee, and then again, yep.
And I must admit, I did stop doing the stairs at work and for a while, and to get back into it, it was a bit of effort. But it was good effort in the end. Yeah.
Patrick, you were one of the more experienced in the group.
Yeah.
So what was your role really? Were you like team leader?
I suppose you could say team leader, in that I was the one who knew the ridge back to front. I've been there, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 times over the years. So I would have been the most experienced. And the other chap who's with us was Frankie. He was experienced as well. So we've been on it maybe 3 or 4 times together. But Kelly, my wife Anya, and Robbie, they were the first time on the actual ridge walk.
So that was your plan, to do the ridge? Was that?
No, we sort of said that we would just have a sort of an introductory approach to it, rather than doing the full ridge. So essentially we'd planned for what we call the half ridge, which you start at L&P car park, and then you sort of walk for about 6 k's and then head up onto the actual ridge and then sort of come back around in a loop. So that's what we'd planned until Robbie, had her slip. But the next day we continued on, the four of us, and camped another night, and then finished back where we had intended.
So day one then.
Yeah.
You've been hiking for 7 hours, and then tell us what happened.
Yeah. Well, I'll take you right back to the morning, because we left Perth at 4 o'clock that morning, right? So, and drove down to the Stirling Ranges.
Yeah, big day.
It was a massive day. So we parked up, and then we did the hike in, and so we had been climbing up and up and up and up, and there were areas where, and we were all carrying our backpacks. So mine was around 13 kilos.
Is that good? Is that about what it should be?
Yeah, probably 13 is sort of good. Some people carry more, carrying more water, that type of thing. So water generally takes up most of your weight. Mm-hmm. If you've got 9 kilos of water basically, which is a lot, and then all your other bits and pieces. So I think most people would average between, let's say, 13 to maybe 18.
Yeah, so that's reasonable then.
Yeah.
You've got a reasonable load.
Yeah, so I've got a reasonable load, and when the accident happened, so we had started coming down the hill, and we were in pretty rugged terrain, because we weren't on a track. We were heading towards the cave that we were going to be camping at that night, and the group had kind of split. So Paddy and I were up the front, and the others, they must have been about 50 metres behind us, and so we're just walking down, could see the cave. It was just like, thank God, we're ready to just take these backpacks off and just sit down and rest up. Anyway, so just watching, looking where to step next, and I saw this perfect stone, and it was black, and it was kind of round, and it looked flat. And I stepped on it, and my foot slipped off the stone, and I fell that far. So what's that, 15, 20 centimetres, something like that?
Yeah.
And I heard snap, snap. And I just went, oh. And I had my walking poles with me, and I didn't fall over, because I must have placed them right in front of me, and I just sat myself down, and I just thought, this doesn't feel good. And I called out to Paddy, and I said, Paddy, I've hurt my foot. He's like, just walk it out.
No sympathy there.
No, well, it's a bit like, I used to just scream out to, our kids on the footy oval, shake it out if you've hurt yourself. And I just went, I can't, no, it's not stable. My foot's not stable.
How did you feel? You must have been in pain at that stage. Were you feeling nauseous? And that's sometimes what happens, isn't it? When you...
I didn't feel nauseous immediately, but I've just remember this feeling of being really overcome with, I've done something serious here. I can feel it, because my foot was not stable. It was moving in my boot. And anyway, so, and the aim was, and it was really lightly drizzling, so the cloud had come in at that stage as well.
So was it quite dark?
No, it was on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
And the reason sort of I really remember that is by the time we'd sort of got Robbie into the actual cave, we'd sort of manhandled her in there as best we could. I think there was only maybe a half an hour, 3/4 of an hour before the light had gone down. So we were lucky it happened in light, because setting up everything in the dark is it's painful.
So it's raining, and then your friends come to help, and then you go into the cave. Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So I remember we get into the cave, and we were having a conversation. Do we take my boot off to have a look or not? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was just the most ridiculous conversation because, like, do we leave it on or do we take it off?
Because you're supposed to leave it on to stop the swelling or something. I don't know.
Well, one of Kelly, she was a nurse.
Okay.
And so I remember saying, you started undoing the lace. I went, stop. Let's wait till Kelly gets here. She'll know what to do. Right. She'll know what to do.
Poor Kelly.
No pressure. But I think for our sake, we needed to understand what was going on. And, I had boots on that was up past my ankles. So, with my foot in the boot, we couldn't see what was going on. Anyway, so, and I just remember just lying down and I was in, the pain had started to kick in.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, I just don't know what's going to happen here. We'll work something out somehow. And so by the time that they had assessed me, they went, right, well, let's at least get a splint on you and get you in a for a better word, stable state. But, because we were carrying such, light materials, the only thing that we had that could be as a splint was someone had a kneel pad and it was solid, but it had bubbles on both sides to sort of give a bit of air pressure. And so they started wrapping my foot up with that, and I just couldn't bear the feeling of those that pressure that those bubbles or that surface was having. So
there was too much pain because of it?
It was just I just couldn't stand anything being on that area of my ankle. So the decision was made, look, we'll just get a bandage on and get you stable. And then once that happened, because it was getting dark, it was like now everyone had to, except for me, had to set up camp and, get us into our thermal gear for nighttime, because we all had, thermal tops and, jackets and sleeping bags and sleeping mats and thermal sleeping sheets and, just everything.
But before that, there was a phone call made, right? Or not?
Well, I think it must have been happening during maybe.
When all this was happening, and then we sort of worked out once Kelly had done her assessment that, well,
she said it was serious.
This is serious. There's no chance that Robbie's going to get off the mountain, of her own volition. So we made a decision then that we would call 000 because we had reception.
Well, that was lucky.
Yeah, no, that was lucky. So there are parts of the ridge where, you've got some decent reception, other parts where you don't. But we had the EPIRB as well, which,
So you get.
But having the phone sort of conversation with emergency, I think they put us through to Narangara police station, I think. And that's when we sort of, had that toing and froing of conversation of how serious it is. And we said, we've got a nurse with us. We think that the leg's broke and so on. And then there was a conversation about, well, rescue. How long is that going to take? The lateness of the night. Stabilise Robbie, and then first thing in the morning or first light, he said that he would have the SES up on the ridge, and then he called, I think maybe 2 times after that. So around 8-9 o'clock he called, and then there was calls early in the morning for all the logistics and so on. So yeah, they were pretty amazing in terms of the sort of communication and getting everything happening on time. It was
So you were setting up for that night. What was going through your mind?
You don't want to know.
And when you found out that you weren't actually going to be pulled out until the next day.
Yeah.
So you had a whole night to deal with that.
To really think about it. So I felt really helpless, to tell you the truth. And I thought, and then I thought, what can I do to do this? I couldn't crawl out. I couldn't walk out. And I was totally reliant on my friends, totally for everything. And the care that they gave me was incredible. Just coming and talking to me, feeding me and giving me drinks and giving me Panadols and Nurophens and what have you. But also just the conversation, just knowing that I was going to have to be there for a night. I knew that the first responders couldn't get in. I knew that because it was dark. It was treacherous terrain that we were in, and I knew that there would be a team of people working in the background.
Yep.
Just sorting stuff out, sorting people and logistics and what have you. But a big thing that got me through it was breathing. Like, that's all I could do. Was, I did the box breathing, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And that actually calmed me. But even Kelly and Anya and Frankie and Paddy, they were really calm as well around me. And that was really appreciated because, I was thinking, I can't get into a crying state because that's not going to help anyone in this situation. And, we all just were really calm about things. We might have been talking to ourselves in our minds going,
Robbie didn't hear the conversations that we had.
Well, you were speaking really, really quietly, and I was trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't.
What were you saying?
Yeah.
Oh, well, in between as well, they tasked me with ringing.
The husband.
The husband. And of course, I work with Robbie's husband.
Oh, okay.
And I've known, Denis for, nearly 25, 30
Longer,
years or longer.
Since
So I had to ring him up to sort of say, well, this has happened. He's, because I joke quite a lot. He said, well, Paddy, you're not serious. I go, actually, this is genuine serious. So, so that conversation had to be had. But yeah.
How did he take it?
Yeah, he was sort of pretty sort of serious. I think he was trying to take it in, soak it all in.
Yeah.
Because there was some jokes prior to when we were going, like, make sure you don't break your leg, don't do this, don't all the usual. When you're going those trips, and we were just unfortunate for it to actually happen. Yeah.
So did you get any sleep that night? Anybody? I'm sure that you
I didn't.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
No, we got just sort of some naps here and there.
Yeah. You had it like a rotating roster, just keeping an eye on
and I think Anya and Kelly, mainly a little bit of Frankie, were going into the tent and just talking to Robbie, keeping her calm, getting the conversation going, and Frankie is works in a hospital as well, so he's got this amazing patient care.
Okay.
So lovely.
That was actually very.
Oh my God! It was
really
like the dream team.
Yeah,
and
it was.
So Frankie was very good at just having that whole calmness and putting things in perspective and so on. Plus Kelly's expert care. So we were actually really, really fortunate with the sort of group that we had. There wasn't any panic. It was just like, right, that's what's ahead of us. This is what's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen until the morning, and even then you're just going to have to reassess, because everything sort of up in the ridge is just so weather dependent. You cannot, like, there was a stage there where we were thinking, is the helicopter going to come in? Are they actually going to have to take you down the ridge? And literally the time it takes to move a patient in a stretcher, it takes hours and hours and hours of hand over hand over hand over hand. Huge team, so thank God. The weather cleared just at the right time.
So what time was it when you actually saw help? The rescue crew arrived.
Well, in the morning, I think it was around 8 o'clock.
Yeah, about 8.
There was a team of SES volunteers and I think 3 or 4 DFES firefighters from Albany, and there must have been about 10 or 12 of them, and they all rocked up, and
all for you.
all for me. It was just like, I don't really normally want that sort of attention, but so you know, they all came up, and
that relief must have been amazing. Like
it was a real relief, and because I thought, okay, but when they came, they had to set expectations very quickly, and they did towards me. They said that. Because I asked, have you got some pain relief? And they said, no, we don't carry pain relief. We're here for the logistics.
Okay.
Right? And I went, okay, that's fair enough. You know, I mean, if someone takes something, it's too much of a liability for someone who's not medically trained, I suppose, giving, you know, a green whistle or, you know, something. And then they said, look, we're here to do the logistics. We just need to work out how we're going to carry you down. And I did say to them, well, if you're carrying me down, I'm going to have to be knocked out, because there is no way that I could sustain
that whole movement.
Anyway, and they said, look, we're just, you know, we're waiting for the helicopter to get down to Albany, because it was coming down from Bunbury, and then we've got to wait for the cloud to lift, because we were still in cloud, I reckon.
Yeah, it was only until around 11 o'clock that the cloud actually.
Is that because you were so high? Because
it's about maybe about 800 metres up the ridge, so quite often you have that sort of cloud coming in, that sort of drizzly rain. The visibility is pretty low.
Yeah, okay.
It tends to lift, you know, around 11, maybe even a little bit earlier sometimes. But
that makes it difficult for helicopters.
Yeah. I don't think they'd even think about it if the visibility wasn't there. And it lifted just at the right time, because all I was thinking was, this is going to be a long carry of a stretcher down there. If it's, you know, and if they're not making that decision until 11 o'clock, that again doesn't give you a lot of hours to actually get the stretcher down to the end, because you're probably about 5 Ks back down to the main track. So quite a distance.
So how long
through very rough terrain.
How long did it take them in the end? Like, is that
so?
Did they go through that track or?
No,
because the helicopter could come in.
Yeah, so we were sort of about 150 metres sort of down a hill towards the cave. So we had to then, you had all the painkillers, all that sort of stuff.
So you did get some painkillers.
Yeah, so the helicopter basically came, dropped the two paramedics.
They administered it.
Yeah, they came down to the cave, stabilised you, and then worked it out, right, we need to get you up to the sort of the rendezvous, the pickup zone up beside what they call the Shiok Call. And that's about 150 metres uphill. So at that stage, I think there was maybe 14, maybe 16 personnel. They were all up, doing the entire hand over hand of the stretcher going up, the rope, the pulling, and
it was hard work for
it was. It was quite strange.
What do you remember of it?
Well, I just remember being completely strapped in, and they said, "Here's the whistle, and you know, just keep blowing on that, sucking on that as you need it." But then the whistle was not cutting all the pain, so then they put a line in my arm, and then they were having to top me up with a heavy duty pain relief. And so I'm in the stretcher, and as we were actually having to go out onto the track, because we were in, you know, native bush, there was no track, and so they were essentially having to cut a track with me on the stretcher. So if you can imagine me and then people on one side and people on the other side of the stretcher, and because they were like feeding the stretcher through hand over hand, the people at the back, when there was no more stretcher for them to hold, they would have to run around, right, cut another track and get to the front of the stretcher, right? Okay. And so, and as we were going up, I could feel the stretcher and you know, because we were going up and we were on an angle, right? So I was lying in the stretcher kind of feeling like I was being tipped out, but I wasn't. They were all, very strong and capable and carrying me up there. But it was hard work for them. I could hear them puffing and these are fit people, exceptionally fit people. And it was hard work for them. And it took them, someone said it took over about 30 minutes to get that 150 metres.
Well, it's just as lucky it was only 150
exactly.
metres, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And that's where the helicopter picked you up?
Yeah, so anyway, then we get to the top, to the point, and they said, right, we're here. We're just waiting for the helicopter to come. And then they said, now here's a helmet, and they had given me earmuffs down at the cave. Here's some safety glasses. Oh, and here's a harness. And so they put all of that on. And they said, when the helicopter comes, it's going to be really windy. And then everyone had to, as the helicopter was coming over, everyone had to sort of scat out from underneath the helicopter. And it almost blew me over. Like it was, just the down pat was just so strong. And the paramedics were amazing, and DFES and the SES, because they were preparing me for what was going to happen next.
You felt safe with
them? My expectations were, they set expectations as to what was going to happen. So that was really good. So then we get harnessed up, and then, all of a sudden we're getting lifted into the helicopter, and that was really painful. And then all of a sudden the paramedic grabbed my leg, because he obviously had to get airborne with me as well, and he held my leg, and I think I must have passed out whilst I was being winched up, because all I then remember was being at the door of the helicopter and being sort of pulled in, and then all of a sudden I sort of had to was helping them, pushing myself back as they were pulling me in as well. And then it was like, oh, okay, I'm off the mountain.
You survived that horror night.
Yeah. I'm off the mountain.
And Patrick, you didn't walk with them to that point, did you? Or you
did?
No. Okay.
Yeah, I was up there. Anya and Kelly stayed down in the cave.
In the cave, yep.
I think they were probably just a little bit scared when everything was happening, but they could sort of see, the helicopter and what it was doing, but they weren't right up that extra 150 metres. And actually, when we left in the morning, it was a bit strange, because we'd spent since 5 o'clock till 1 p.m. and then we stayed the night there as well. So when we left the next morning, Anya and Kelly were saying, we actually haven't been out of the cave. We haven't actually seen this entire area in daylight. So as we're coming out, it was fascinating for them, because they actually got to now see the range at sort of close proximity, because we sort of got there as in bad visibility, couldn't really see things. So it was interesting.
And then you sort of parted ways, because you went back and finished the hike. And you went to hospital. And what happened in the end? Like, how bad was the break?
So the break was bad. I broke three bones in my ankle, and if you want the technical terms, I'll get those later.
That sounds bad enough.
Three breaks and cartilage damage. And so when the helicopter dropped me off at the Albany airport, and then I had to be road transported by road ambulance to the hospital. Straight in, the Albany, the care that I got down there was amazing. Straight in, and they were just straight into x-rays and trying to work out what to do. And then I remember someone coming in and saying, yes, we're just going to have to put you under because we have to put your leg in a cast to really make it secure. And you're right to go home tonight. I just looked at them and I went, okay. I said, well, my friends are on at the Stirling Ranges somewhere. My husband's in Perth. Can I stay in the hospital tonight? And they were like, oh, the hospital's full. Leave it with us and we'll see what we can do. So they were totally amazing, and they said, yep, that's fine. You'll have to stay, in emergency. I said, I really don't care, because I was just exhausted.
Yeah, without
because I had no sleep at all, and and they I remember they the care down there was fabulous, and I was really concerned when I was leaving the mountain. I remember I was really concerned. Where's my phone and where are my glasses? That's all I needed.
But
because
you got them in the end.
Yeah, well, if I didn't have my glasses, I couldn't read anything. So it was super super critical.
So are you going back?
I am, but I don't know if Paddy will take me. We haven't had that conversation yet. And my husband is, let's just say he's not that he's not that keen. But I think, and the reason why he didn't come with us is because he also had a bung knee, and so I think I've got a bit of work to do. To convince him, and
it would be good if he came, because then I wouldn't be responsible.
But it goes to show you though, like obviously you were very well prepared with for anything that could go wrong. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that go hiking and bushwalking that aren't as prepared. Yeah. So what would be your message to people? And we were super prepared, even to the point that we had a meeting to say, right, who's got what and who's carrying what. And all the gear that I had was borrowed from Frankie and Kelly and Paddy and Anya. And so that was all sorted out. And it was funny because we even joked, what about the first aid? And because Kelly is the nurse, she's always the one that comes super prepared with the first aid. But for as prepared we were, and we were all fit for this particular hike. I just took the wrong step, and it just threw everything out. It can happen to anyone.
It can happen to anyone. And, out of the, I don't know, how many steps would we have taken? 40,000 steps that day. I took the wrong step. And that was, the end of my hiking, trip with...
And when you think about it now, you must be very grateful that you had help at hand.
Extremely.
That they could pluck you out, because you were saying that it actually could have been life-threatening.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't life-threatening, but it could have been really life-changing in that, had my foot been positioned in such a way that it cut off blood flow, and because I was on the range for 17 hours without getting the paramedic care that we needed, it could have resulted in loss of foot if a vein a major artery had been blocked in some way. So I was lucky. That didn't happen.
And in terms of you having to stay overnight as well in the cave, you would have had some understanding of that because you have worked with DFS yourself.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I knew that help would be on its way. I knew that there would have been a team of people, scurrying away in the night, organising people to, change the plans for tomorrow. If you look at the SES crew, they're all volunteers. They all had plans, and when they were up and we were chatting in the cave, one guy said, I had to cancel my Pilates class with my partner, and then there was a young boy. He was 16 years old, and he was an SES volunteer.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It was absolutely amazing, and so I was having a bit of a chat to him. It's like, well, how did you get involved in this at such a young age? And he was sort of telling his story, and it was going to be a family thing, but something changed, and he just went, well, I'm just going to continue on with it. And he was just saying how much he loved it. But not only it was there, when I was in the road, got to the road ambulance, there was a young girl in the ambulance with the paramedic, and she was training as a volunteer as well. And she would have been in her early 20s. And I'm like, this is just incredible that here are these, really young adults making such big decisions to volunteer. It was incredible.
So what did your rehabilitation look like?
Okay, so it was actually quite a lengthy process. So when I left Albany Hospital, they had me plastered up, and the surgeon here in Perth, we had given them the scans. Albany Hospital had taken the scans, and they had said, they saw the scans and they said, look, we have to just stay at home for 2 weeks and put your foot up, because the swelling's so, your ankle's going to be so swollen, we can't operate whilst it's so swollen. So I was at home for 2 weeks in the cast. I went and had the operation, and then I was in a cast for a further 2 weeks after that. And then I was in a moon boot for, I think it was about 10 weeks.
No, that would have been pleasant.
Yeah, no weight bearing and at all. So I had to, sleep with this moon boot, have my leg raised. It was just, it was, sleeping was a bit traumatic actually. Just no weight at all. And anyway, it wasn't until after that, would have been about 3.5 months, I went back to my surgeon, and he looked at the x-rays and he said, okay, well, he was happy with how my bones were healing. And he said that I could start to, take the moon boot off and start physio. Well, the physio, because my ankle or my foot, I hadn't moved it, starting the physio, like moving it by 0.5 millimetre by just twisting my ankle,
it was frozen,
impossible.
Sort of,
It was completely frozen. So, so you come a long way from, having a fully frozen ankle to, being able to move it and walk. So, and then I was on crutches for, probably about 4 weeks after that, and it was, it did progress quickly, but what I find with my ankle is, my ankle might be fine, but it's my calf muscle that's
yes,
not,
because that's just been sitting there too.
Yeah,
so,
or it was my toes or the top of my foot, or so wherever you have an injury, it's that heals, but you just get this. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like you've changed so many things about your body that because of those adjustments, it affects other muscles. Yeah. So there's been a lot of work involved in getting that corrected. So lots of physio, lots of swimming, walking in the pool, going back to gym, and just doing all of those things that I hadn't done for so long. So it feels good to be moving.
So what's next in your bushwalking career? Do you know there's actually bushwalkers in WA have increased by almost 50% between 21 and 23 or something like that. It's like 2021, 2023. But what's next?
What's next? Okay, well, a couple of things.
Oh, you do have something planned.
Well, when we had planned this hike, My husband and I were actually going to be going on a Broome Carragini holiday and doing some hikes, on our not as intense as what this hike
I don't know.
was.
Have you been to Carragini?
No, I haven't.
It's intense.
Yeah,
it's
right.
intense.
Okay, well, here we go. We've got some work to do on him over Christmas then. So we've got that planned, and then at Christmas time we'll be heading down to Esperance and Albany, and hopefully catching up with.
We'll do some tamer walks. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go and do some hikes around Albany at Christmas time. Yeah, which would be really gorgeous.
So what is your message to bushwalkers, both of you, from your experience and your experience, from both of your experiences?
Look, generally for bushwalking is be just super prepared, but particularly with the Stirling Ridge walk, quite often it's underestimated, and you can have two totally different experiences there, and it's so weather dependent. So you could do the walk, sort of quite easily, with no major issues in terms of navigation. But when the weather comes in, everything changes completely. So your navigation is, extremely difficult. And even if you're just relying on your regular, your GPS and looking at the blue dot and following that, that can be misleading as well. So even with that, and you have tracks on your phone, you can still get lost. So for that type of walk, I would just say, advice-wise, is if you are going to do it, ideally, go with somebody who's already done the walk previously, and it makes a huge difference. It takes that stress out of the navigation, and then just be ready for the weather to turn.
Take an EPIRB.
And take an EPIRB, yeah. I was only up there maybe about 3 weeks ago. I didn't pack as well as I should have, so I got a little bit complacent, and the weather came in, and I was sort of rushing and getting cold to get the tent up and get it all set up on time. Yeah. So you're walking up fine, you're in a t-shirt, and then 2 hours later it's blowing a gale and you're freezing. So you've really got to look after the weather and get everything. Your clothes has got to be super dry, everything packed, everything waterproof, all that sort of stuff. So you've got to test your gear out, bring enough water, food, EPIRB, those sort of things. And there's not many places in Western Australia, there's actually probably none, that have got those alpine conditions that the Stirling Ridge walk has. So you might be walking the Cape to Cape in the bib, and you're super fit, but up there it's a totally different environment, and I think a lot of people can underestimate that. So yeah.
And what about you, Robyn?
Oh, so my advice is, have fun while you're doing it, but also, just as Patty said, be prepared, be aware, don't venture out totally naive, and ask questions, sign in and out of the hiking books.
Makes
as
sense.
Well. It's just following those sort of protocols. But be prepared for anything, because you just don't know. It's, one step, changed my life for, 4 months, 5 months, well, still now, changed my life. And, I was at the mercy of my friends, totally forever grateful, and, and also to the first responders who came, they were going about their days doing other things, and I can hear them. Oh, another hiker, hurt on the ridge. So yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
The RAC Rescue helicopters are funded by the state government, managed by the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, and sponsored by RAC. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, let us know and share it with a friend. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next episode of RAC's Horizons podcast.